If you receive Social Security, there's something happening in Washington that you cannot afford to ignore in 2026. President Donald Trump has made Social Security a major part of his agenda. And while some of the changes being discussed are designed to help retirees, others involve how the Social Security Administration operates, how seniors access their benefits, and how the program is funded in the future. And there is one thing you need to understand right away. Not every headline saying Trump is cutting Social Security is accurate, and not every headline promising seniors more money tells the complete story. Some changes are already in effect, some were passed by Congress, some are administrative changes, and others are proposals that could still change. So in this video, we are going to separate the facts from the headlines and explain what seniors receiving Social Security actually need to watch in 2026. The first major point every senior should know is that Social Security benefits themselves received a 2.8% cost of living adjustment in 2026. This was not a Trump-created increase. The COLA is calculated under a formula based on inflation data. The Social Security Administration announced that approximately 75 million Americans receiving Social Security and SSI would see the 2.8% increase for 2026. For the average retiree, that means a higher monthly benefit compared with 2025. But here's the important part. A larger Social Security check does not necessarily mean you have more spending power. Medicare premiums, housing, food, utilities, insurance, prescriptions, and taxes can all reduce the amount of money available for everyday expenses. So if you are looking at your 2026 bank statement and wondering why the increase doesn't feel as large as you expected, you need to look at your entire retirement budget rather than focusing only on the COLA. The second major issue involves taxes on Social Security and the new tax provisions affecting older Americans. President Trump campaigned heavily on the idea of eliminating taxes on Social Security benefits, but the reality is more complicated than simply saying Social Security is now tax-free. The tax treatment of Social Security has not simply disappeared for every retiree. Depending on your overall income and circumstances, some of your Social Security benefits can still be included in taxable income under federal law. What changed is that new tax provisions provide additional tax relief for many older Americans. That distinction is extremely important because a senior who hears no tax on Social Security might assume they no longer need to consider taxation when planning withdrawals from an IRA, 401k, pension, or other retirement account. That could be a mistake. Your other income can still affect your overall federal tax situation. So seniors should look at the complete picture instead of assuming their Social Security check is automatically tax-free. The third issue is the way the Social Security Administration itself is changing. Under the Trump administration, SSA has been undergoing major operational changes, including an increased emphasis on digital services and changes in how the agency handles customer service and identity verification. The administration has described these changes as efforts to modernize Social Security and make the agency more efficient. SSA leadership has also highlighted service improvements and modernization as part of its strategy. But for seniors, the practical question is much simpler. What does this mean when you need help with your benefits? If you have always depended on visiting a local Social Security office or speaking with someone by phone, you may encounter different procedures than you were used to in the past. That is why seniors should become familiar with their online Social Security account and make sure their personal information is accurate. And this brings us to something extremely important: identity verification and fraud prevention. Social Security is a prime target for scammers because your monthly benefit may be one of your most important sources of income. Changes designed to strengthen identity verification are intended to prevent fraud, but they can also mean that some people have to follow additional steps when completing certain transactions. The lesson for seniors is simple. If someone calls you claiming your Social Security number is about to be suspended and demands immediate payment, do not panic. If someone tells you that you must purchase gift cards to protect your benefits, that is a major red flag. And if you receive a suspicious message containing a link, don't automatically click it. Instead, go directly to the official Social Security website yourself. The fourth major issue seniors need to understand is the long-term financial condition of Social Security. This is where the conversation becomes much more serious. The Social Security trustees have warned that the program's reserves face depletion in the coming years if Congress does not enact changes. Recent 2026 projections have put the combined trust funds under significant pressure, with some analyses projecting a substantial reduction in scheduled benefits if lawmakers fail to act. Now, this does not mean that your Social Security check is suddenly going to disappear tomorrow. That is not what the projections mean. Social Security would continue receiving payroll tax revenue even if reserves were depleted. The concern is that scheduled benefits could exceed incoming revenue, creating a gap that Congress would need to address. This is one reason the Trump administration's broader tax and economic policies are being debated in connection with Social Security's finances. Supporters argue that tax relief can strengthen the economy and put more money into Americans' pockets. Critics argue that certain tax changes and demographic trends could put additional pressure on Social Security's long-term finances. The important thing for seniors is not to turn this into a political argument. Your goal should be to understand what is actually happening and what could happen next. A proposal, a budget provision, a law, and an administrative decision are not the same thing. When you see a headline claiming that Social Security is being cut, check whether the story is talking about an actual benefit reduction, a future projection, an administrative change, or a political proposal. The fifth issue is Social Security staffing and customer service. This is something many seniors may notice before they ever notice a change in their actual benefit amount. The Social Security Administration has faced significant debate over staffing levels, field offices, processing times, and customer service capacity. Critics have argued that staffing reductions can create longer waits and make it harder for beneficiaries to get help with complicated issues. The administration, on the other hand, has emphasized modernization and digital tools. For seniors, the practical takeaway is to avoid waiting until you have an urgent problem before learning how to access your Social Security information online. If your address changes, your banking information changes, you receive a notice you don't understand, or you need to check your benefit information, dealing with the issue early can be much easier than waiting until a payment is already delayed. The sixth thing seniors need to watch is the difference between Social Security retirement benefits and other programs administered by the Social Security Administration. Many Americans use the phrase Social Security to describe everything connected to the agency. But retirement benefits, SSDI, SSI, and survivor benefits can have very different eligibility rules. In 2026, for example, the federal SSI payment standards and resource rules remain separate from ordinary retirement benefits. SSA has also announced improvements and updates to the SSI program. So if you receive SSI or SSDI, don't assume that a headline about retirement benefits automatically applies to you. Your particular benefit type matters. Another important point for retirees is that working while receiving Social Security can affect your benefits depending on your age and earnings. The rules surrounding the retirement earnings test remain important for people who claim Social Security before reaching full retirement age while continuing to work. The 2026 earnings limits are adjusted annually, and the amount of benefits withheld can depend on how much you earn and when you reach full retirement age. So if you are a senior who started Social Security but still has a job, don't simply assume your paycheck has no effect on your benefits. Review the rules that apply specifically to your age and situation. And there is another point that deserves attention. Do not confuse political proposals with actual changes to your Social Security check. This may be the single most important message in this entire video. Social Security is one of the most politically discussed programs in America, and that means there are constantly new proposals, campaign promises, congressional bills, budget negotiations, and predictions circulating online. Some will become law. Some will be modified. Some will never happen. If you make a retirement decision based on a headline without checking whether the proposal actually became law, you could make an expensive mistake. For example, discussions about changing the retirement age have been circulating for years, but proposals to increase the retirement age are not the same thing as an enacted increase. So, what should you actually do right now? First, log into your official Social Security account and review your benefit information. Second, make sure your contact information and banking details are correct. Third, review your earnings record and look for obvious errors. Fourth, if you're still working, understand how your earnings can interact with Social Security. Fifth, if you are receiving Medicare deductions from your Social Security payment, review what is being deducted. Sixth, pay attention to official notices from SSA instead of relying on social media posts. And finally, be extremely cautious about anyone who contacts you unexpectedly claiming they can increase your Social Security benefits for a fee. There's also a broader lesson here for every retiree. Don't build your entire retirement plan around one political promise. Whether you support President Trump or disagree with him, Social Security is bigger than any one administration. The program is governed by federal law, Congress plays a major role in changing benefits and taxes, and the Social Security Administration handles the day-to-day administration of the program. The best protection for your retirement is understanding what is actually guaranteed under current law and preparing for possible changes, without assuming that every prediction will become reality. And finally, seniors should keep an eye on the long-term Social Security funding debate. The program's financial challenges are real, and lawmakers will eventually have to make decisions about revenue, benefits, or both. Current projections show that if Congress does nothing, the system could eventually face a situation where incoming revenue is not enough to pay all scheduled benefits. But that is a long-term financing issue. not an announcement that seniors are losing their checks today. Understanding this difference can help you avoid unnecessary fear while still taking the issue seriously. So, if you're a Social Security recipient watching this in 2026, here's the bottom line. President Trump is associated with significant changes in the way Social Security is administered and with tax and policy changes that can affect retirees, but there has not been a blanket cancellation of Social Security retirement benefits. Your 2026 benefit includes the 2.8% COLA established under the normal Social Security formula. The bigger questions are how the administration manages the agency, how tax policy affects retirees, how Congress addresses Social Security's long-term funding problem, and what future legislation could mean for different groups of beneficiaries. The smartest thing you can do is stay informed without being frightened by sensational headlines. Check your Social Security account, read official notices, protect your personal information, and verify major claims before changing your retirement strategy. Your Social Security benefit represents years of work and payroll contributions, and you deserve to understand exactly how today's policy decisions could affect your financial future. And as 2026 continues, keep watching for verified updates from the Social Security Administration and Congress, because the conversation around Social Security is far from over.